All things Randi at RandiRhodes.com.
Go for launch.
Speaking truth to power, the Randi Rhodes Show.
Are you ready for peak crazy? Okay, this is it. Watch this.
On this piece of property in a remote part of Montana, people may at this very minute be analyzing voting data from the state of Arizona as part of the so-called Arizona audit run by the Cyber Ninjas, a company whose CEO had previously espoused Trump-style election conspiracy theories.
Oh.
What does Montana have to do with all this? Ken Bennett is a spokesman for the audit.
Everything that Cyber Ninjas is doing, they're either doing with their own expertise or the expertise of the people that they're hired.
And a contractor it hired is called Cipher LLC. Bennett says Cipher was permitted to take copies of Arizona voting system data on a truck and have it driven to Montana.
Oh my God.
Where it's being, quote, forensically evaluated in what he described as a secure, powerful laboratory. But nobody is publicly saying what that actually means. And Bennett tells us he doesn't know where the so-called lab is. It is apparently a secret. So as you might expect, we're left wondering where in the state of Montana are the copies of this voting data being analyzed? Where is the secure, powerful lab? Here's what we found out. Cipher is a company that's based in Virginia, according to its website. But Cipher was spun off and is a sister company of a company called SciTech. And SciTech, according to its website, is based in Montana. Here we are right now, south of the city of Big Fork. More interestingly, SciTech and Cipher are run by the same exact person. And that person, we're told, is the man who drove in a truck the copies of the voting information from Arizona to Montana. So this property where SciTech, according to the website, is located also happens to be, according to records, where the CEO lives, his residence. So could the information be here? We could tell you as we walk up here, the first thing you see on this big piece of land is a sign. Private property, trespassing for any purpose is strictly forbidden, violators will be prosecuted. So we can't cross this area. We can show you, though, from this area what looks like a cabin on this property. Is this the secure, powerful laboratory? Is Arizona voting data inside that cabin? We just don't know.
Oh my God. This is peak crazy. So it wasn't bad enough that the Senate president, who is a member of ALEC, who is receiving money from the Koch brothers, actually was able to allow for the hiring of a company with no expertise whatsoever in elections, Cyber Ninjas in Florida, with a CEO who is pro-conspiracy theory about fraud, that the election was stolen from Donald Trump, to be in charge of a private audit of Maricopa County's 2.1 million ballots. But now he's subcontracted to another company that is based in Montana in a cabin located outside of Big Fork, Montana. Gorgeous. But located outside of Big Fork, Montana. The guy, his name is Ben Cotton. He owns SciTech. He's the CEO of SciTech. He is now picking up copies of the data, of the ballots, getting in a truck, and himself driving the data on those ballots to his cabin outside of Big Fork, Montana, telling people it's some sort of a super lab, and he's going to forensically look at the data in his lab in Montana without telling anybody what security measures are in place, where the lab is, whether or not objective observers are allowed. I mean, nobody even knows where this lab is because there isn't a lab. It's his freaking cabin. And we know this because when CNN was prohibited from entering the property, couldn't pass the property line, they decided to check it out by air.
The boss who drove the truck to Montana, according to the audit spokesman, is Ben Cotton, who testified in a special meeting at the Arizona Capitol last month.
I personally have over 25 years of computer forensics and incident response experience.
We reached out to Cotton to ask him about what kind of analysis is taking place and is his lab on his property. He did not respond.
Oh.
So we did some further investigating from the air, and we see that in addition to the building that looks like a cabin, there is on the right a large house in the clearing, and on the left what looks like a barn, and perhaps some trailers, but no people. A real estate website shows what appears to be that large house.
Nice.
And it all sits on 155 acres of land. So there is plenty of space here for a lab, and plenty of privacy for the boss.
You can't make this.
Arizona's Democratic Secretary of State says she's very concerned about what's going on nearly 1,300 miles north of Phoenix.
If it wasn't happening right in front of our eyes, we wouldn't believe it was happening.
Is there a deadline for finishing this Montana analysis? According to the Arizona audit spokesman, no deadline. When it's done, it's done.
Okay, this is peak crazy. This is insane. First of all, we have a federal law that says you must preserve ballots for 22 months after an election. Second, we've got cyber ninjas fingering those ballots and saying that they're nearly done. And then now the data is being stolen. The data is being put into a truck that is being driven by a man named Ben Cotton to his cabin without any observers or guarantees of security or any information about what measures are in place, or what is the lab supposed to do with this data, or how long will it be in possession of these of this data. Nothing has been told to the Secretary of State of Arizona. Nothing has been told to the person who's supposed to be in charge of observing it. This Bennett dude from, the Secretary of State, Ken Bennett, he's the liaison between cyber ninjas and the Senate President, Karen Fann. I mean, they asked the Secretary of State in Arizona if he had any documentation on the Montana lab that would indicate that the lab was secure, and he said he hadn't seen any documentation. But Doug Logan from Cyber Ninjas here in Florida says, I trust Ben Cotton at his word with all this data. So now you've got lunatics who have complete unfettered access to the data of Arizona voters, and we don't really know what data do they have. Is it private voter information? Is it voter registration information? If it's voter registration information, then they have your party affiliation and they have your address and ID numbers, maybe even driver's license ID numbers. I mean, there is nothing here from both a security or a privacy perspective that guarantees the safe handling of personal voter data. No policies, no processes related to this partisan review are available. No one knows where they plan to send this data or what they plan to use this data for. All we know is that these people, Ben Cotton and Logan, say they are a for-profit business and they've signed non-disclosure agreements and they're not talking about anything. You realize this is obviously how a foreign government could get voter data? You understand that that's possible, right? Don't have time to listen to the live show? Want to hear more on your schedule? Go to randyrhodes.com and buy a stinking podcast.